It's 7 o'clock on a Sunday night, and you know what that means. It's Topical starts right now. A very good evening to South Africa, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical. Our digital audience with us tonight. They are from the University of Pretoria as well as UniZulu. Looking forward to getting their questions for our guests in a short while. SABC News reporting this week, 4 people appeared in the Motherwell Magistrates Court. Why? Well, it was in connection with the murders allegedly linked to insurance payout schemes. The National Prosecuting Authority says the 4 accused between the ages of 27 and 32 allegedly orchestrated the shooting of a Nelson Mandela Metro employee who listed one of the accused as a beneficiary on her insurance policies. Now, all 4, we understand, abandoned bail, and the cases has been postponed for further investigations. We've got to get into this, right? Claims of insurance-related killings in South Africa. Is it on the rise? Orchestrating murders of loved ones for payouts on insurance policies. What's the modus operandi, the particular way or method being used? What policy changes are needed in the hopes of safeguarding individuals and families from exploitation? We will discuss, which brings us to the umbrella question of the week, and we ask you, what motivations do you think drive individuals to exploit life insurance policies at the expense of their loved ones? Let us know your thoughts around this matter at SABC News_TV. What steps can people take to protect themselves from becoming victims of fraudulent life insurance schemes? Also, how can individuals verify the existence of life insurance policies taken out in their name? That handle again at SABC News_TV. Perspective coming up. So they say money makes the world go round, right? Seems like it's taken a bit of a darker tone, especially now that money has fast become the motive for murder, as some lives are ruthlessly taken. This montage, compiled by producer Markiket Mutlabe, reminds us about some of the notable insurance fraud cases you'd probably never forget. Take a look.
South Africa has one of the highest number of funeral covers in the world.
Rosemary Ndlovu.
Rosemary Ndlovu has received 6 life terms at the High Court sitting at Palm Ridge in Johannesburg for the 6 murders she committed, allegedly to benefit from life insurance money. She was earlier found guilty of murdering her 6 relatives. The state had asked for life sentences. Family members of Ndlovu's victims who took the stand in her sentencing proceedings feel Ndlovu showed no remorse.
A pastor, his wife and his cousin have been found guilty of murdering a young Thobakgale woman from George in the Southern Cape.
The accused, Phumlani Qosheka, Siposishle Pamba and Melisizwe Monko, faced other charges apart from murder. The pastor and his wife were church friends of the family. They deliberately targeted the young mother of 2 in their get-rich-quick scheme for an almost 3 million rand payout.
It won't bring her back. Nothing will ever bring her back, but it gives us some sort of closure.
There's a certain message that he just disappear. But everybody thought, no, he'll come back.
Call log obtained found out that Lerato was the last person to call him. However, when asked about his whereabouts, she said she didn't know and that she had also just lost her husband.
It is alleged that the 2 killed a man and burnt his body in their house in Soshanguve. Thereafter, it is further alleged that the wife obtained a fraudulent death certificate from the Department of Home Affairs, claiming that her husband had died in the fire, and later claimed life policies.
The couple has been charged with murder, defeating the ends of justice and fraud.
suspected insurance fraudster Agnes Sutwanso. Police have found that she had taken out about 40 insurance policies at 5 different insurers. A whistleblower claims that her niece, Bonolo Mudisaimang, did not die of natural causes but was murdered for insurance money.
Police also suspect that Sechoncho had killed her husband and 2 of her children to claim for insurance.
The SAPS had to exhume the body of the deceased to really establish the cause of death, and preliminary results have indicated that there was foul play.
She gave a statement, a brief statement rather, to explain why she says she's not guilty, and she's going to maintain that status, which is that she's not guilty of the charges preferred against her.
According to police, this female officer stationed at the Sinobarwana police station pocketed over 10 million rand in insurance claims. Some of her victims were said to be destitute, while others lived with mental and/or physical disabilities.
We are charging her with 6 counts of murder, and she is facing about 17 counts of fraud.
The charges are believed to date back to 2019.
These people, they see advantage when they see us as people like this. They see us as money. Instead of protecting us, they are killing us.
Yo, it's not a runner. No, I'm very disappointed. Yeah, it's not good.
According for me, they must rot in jail.
All right, many thanks to Makikele Motlabe there for that montage. Before we carry on with our main topic of the night, we've got eyes on the R. Tambo Memorial Lecture currently happening. President Cyril Ramaphosa, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, is expected to address that. When that happens, as you know, on this show, live events of importance takes precedence. We'll try to bring you the gist of that, so stand by for that. Now, in studio, we have Sekgobola Thobakgale, who is the broker principal, as well as a key individual. That's what this show is all about, bringing in the key individuals to get a better understanding. We also have via Teams Garth de Klerk, CEO of the Insurance Crime Bureau. Obviously, our digital audience with us as well. It's great to have them. They're going to put up their virtual hands, and if you have any questions, comments, please do that. I'll get to you as soon as possible. SK, if I can get to you. Let's talk about what investigations have uncovered, what's the trends in terms of the way people do this, the modus operandi. What have you found out?
I think what is becoming very clear is that the investigations of this kind of claims are revealing cracks that are in the system, both in the acquisition of policies, where people can become multiple policy holders, as well as become multiple policy beneficiaries. And through these cracks, people have been able to manipulate the system and be able to benefit illegally through claims. Right. What has become more clear is that through these incidents, insurance companies have become more vigilant. They are more strict in terms of their ways of verifying policy applicants or policy proposers to make sure that everybody that is part of a policy has given the consent that they wish to be part of that particular policy.
Right. Garth, talk to us about these cracks. What have you found in your investigations?
Good evening, Blaine, firstly, and thank you very much for inviting us to comment. As SK said, you know, really what we have to do is first set a bit of context. Okay, there are definitely cracks that can be looked at. However, we also have to just be aware of the fact that this media cycle around cases like Rosemary and Global, around the new Shikani case, seems to make this as if it's happening every second day in society. And it's not. You know, the insurance companies are doing a relatively good job at ensuring the fact that the people that are insured are genuine beneficiaries, that their life insured has a insured interest to it. But unfortunately, you are always going to have a criminal element that is looking to take advantage of the financial services product.
What
which
are
in this
they?
case is insurance.
What sort of loopholes are they exploiting, Garth?
Well, basically, they're looking for ways where they can claim insured interest. So, if I were to, for example, take out insurance on my auntie, there's nothing wrong with that transaction. I'm totally legally allowed to take out insurance on my auntie.
Right.
She could even be confirmed. The illegal act is when I murder her. So the financial transaction is totally above board. It's the illegal transaction of murder that we have to look at. How do we curtail that?
Can you take out insurance on anybody? Can it be friends, family, etc.?
Currently, as far as I know, you can take a policy on your family, people that are immediate, that are living with you in the same house. You can also take a policy on your parents, your in-laws, as well as your relatives. So in terms of what Garth is talking about there, that they need to be insurable interest. So which means that in good faith, those people, should they die or should they be demised, then you stand to suffer financially as a result of their death. So you are required, as in tradition, people contribute towards a burial of a loved one, and sometimes you find that you're traveling a little bit of a distance to get there, and people make provision for those kind of things, and that's what it's for. That is the interest that the financial service is trying to close. But like he's saying that now people see a loophole where there is a scheme or there is an opportunity to make some money in order to resolve financial stresses that they may be going through by so doing, killing people. Sometimes you know of these situations in the burial societies within the communities. This kind of fraud is not only happening there.
I want to touch on that in a short while in terms of the process and where we can tighten things up. I just want to bring in Dr. Noma Tamsanga Mthethwa. I understand the good doctor is with us, and she was awarded a Doctor of Philosophy for a research titled The Inquiry into Life Insurance Fraud in KwaZulu-Natal. Doctor, good to have you on the program. Firstly, I understand it's your birthday, so happy birthday, and apologies to your family for graciously giving us your time here to enlighten the nation. Talk to us about the main findings of your study.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. So first of all, it is so unfortunate that our family members nowadays are actually viewing us as checks which are waiting to be cashed out. But one of the primary findings that I did find in my study was that these perpetrators are mostly motivated by financial pressure, which is associated with greed. I wouldn't say that it's because of unemployment, but I would say that it's because of the need to have money. Because if we actually go through the current cases which are being exposed in the media lately, you'd actually find that these people who are committing such crimes are people who have stable jobs. So it's just the mere need of having more than what you already have.
What do you make about the public awareness around certain cases? Garth is saying that it's few and far in between, but it gets prominence because of the shock factor, right? Is that your understanding?
I would say that not enough awareness is being exposed out there in terms of this particular crime.
Why?
I feel like when you compare life insurance fraud to rape cases and any other crime, I feel like this particular crime is not really receiving much attention as it should. And I think that the insurance companies or the insurance industry themselves are entitled to actually play a role in terms of educating people about such crimes.
Right. Garth, do you think there's a lack of, one would say, or a reluctance rather, maybe that's a better word, the reluctance from insurers to disclose such cases because maybe it's bad for business, reputation-wise?
I think the doctor's got a very, very good point, and thank you very much for that. I think she makes the point that all of us have the responsibility to better educate ourselves. There's this constant fear driven again by the media that you can take out life insurance on anybody and murder them for the financial gain. And that's not quite correct. But you do have to be more aware of your environment around you. And we often find that people that are involved have signed papers giving the beneficiary of the policy the right to insure them. So yes, as a community, as a South African community, as a financial services sector, we could do more. But we also need to talk to each other. We need to protect each other.
So just help us for those who haven't taken out a life insurance policy on someone. The process that is followed, the person that they are taking the policy on, they are informed, are they interviewed? Is there any biometrics that's done? What's the process?
Is this for me?
Yes, Garth.
Sure. Okay. So, let's again distinguish between life insurance and funeral cover, because a lot of these policies that we're talking about are more funeral cover. If I take a 20 million rand life insurance on my wife, for example, because she's worth that much, she would be interviewed. She'd have to go for medicals. They would do biometrics. They would do everything. If I take out a 50,000 rand policy on, for a funeral payment, the underwriting is a lot less because it's just not possible to do that level of underwriting on millions and millions of people.
Right.
So, as part of my group life policy, I would have cover on my wife, my kids, and my parents, for example. Very little underwriting goes into that. They will be noted as beneficiaries, and you have to prove the insured interest. You have to prove the fact that they exist.
Right.
But is there a lot of underwriting and a lot of checking that goes into that? Unfortunately, not as much as maybe there could be. But it also doesn't make sense. Funeral policies are supposed to assist people, not be a hindrance.
Malope Matete is the author of We Killed for Insurance Money. Seth, good to have you on the program. Talk to us in terms of your research for your book. What have you found? Is Malope with us? It seems that he's just gone. Maybe we can get it back. Control, let's get him back. I think he will add some value to the discussion. SK, where can we tighten the loopholes, though, in terms of be it funeral policy or life insurance? Where are the grey areas?
I think the first step would be the consent. If the industry and the regulators agree that even for funeral policies, which Garth correctly said that their purpose is to assist people with finances in order to lay their beloved to rest. It's not a lot of money. That's why there's not a lot of underwriting that has been done. So the consent, maybe it's one thing that can be introduced in terms of the beneficiaries and those who are added on the policy. They provide some level of, except just giving their ID numbers. Then the second...
What can they do?
They can verify. I mean, we've got technology today where people can be sent an SMS. Are you Blaine? Do you consent to SK taking a policy on your behalf? It will pay this much.
Right.
You might not be there to see the money coming through, but at least you've given the permission for it to happen.
Right. Let's go to a digital audience. Let's hear from Carmen. Carmen.
Hi, Blaine. Thank you for having me on. I think something that's really important that I think is sometimes gets overlooked as well is the case that brought this to light now, and it is that the police officer is being potentially charged with 6 cases of fraud for life insurance. And for me, it really is quite worrying that the sort of culture of impunity that's been made regarding law enforcement and police who almost feel that they are above the law to get away with this. And it's very alarming, obviously, that he got to 6 people before anything sort of came out about this. And I think there needs to be a serious look to what is going on in police officers' life and a sort of the management over that as well and what they're up to.
Carmen, let's put a pin in it. We have to take a live event now. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is currently addressing the OR Tambo Memorial Lecture. Let's dip in. The Tambo Memorial Lecture currently happening. When it does start, we went there a bit early. When the president, ANC president, does speak, we will pick it up, go there, get you the big takeaways in terms of that lecture. Important one indeed. SK, let's just go back a bit in terms of this consent. What about the use of AI and technology in order to, close the loopholes? Is that something that the industry is looking at?
I'm not personally aware of anybody that is doing that, but those guys that are selling their products that are online, there's some levels of AI integration into their products. But mainly, it is on these products where you are buying life cover. You know, it's not just a funeral cover for 5,000 rands, for 10,000 rands over there. So probably, as a country, we need to make a decision whether these things are they important to us. You know, do we want to pay the same attention that we do on other types of policies? If you buy a car insurance, you need to take it for inspection. So if you buy a funeral, why don't you make sure that the person exists? And it's for the correct reasons.
Right. Garth, is the amount of money a red flag for insurance companies to look into certain policies?
You know, Carmen makes a good point as well. There's people in positions of trust that are abusing that trust that we hand to them. And certainly this SABC member is not the only SABC member that has been in the news of recent for breaking our trust. So if we're looking at a 50,000 rand claim, you know, the claims procedure is maybe not as severe as a 5 million rand claim because it's just not physically possible. But 50,000 rand in a rural environment where there is economic pressure is a lot of money. That can be an annual salary for somebody. So it does become worth it, and it becomes a numbers game. Right. So certainly the value of the claim will determine the level of checks that are passed on that claim.
Molope Matete is the author of a very interesting book. I'm just being told, Molope, that the ANC president is now addressing. We'll try to come back to you in a short while. I do apologize for that, but we have to go to this event, the O.R. Tambo Memorial Lecture, currently being held. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa currently at the lectern. Let's listen in.
The Tambo family, the Deputy President of the African National Congress, members of the National Executive Committee, the officials of the African National Congress, NEC members and alliance leaders here present, ministers and deputy ministers, MECs of our province and PEC members, the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni, members of the diplomatic corps, and all residents of Ekurhuleni. Ke a le dumedisa kaofela lebitsong la African National Congress. Ha le mpona ke le tjena ke apere tie ntle, ke latela ntho e ne e etswa ke modulasetulo wa ANC hoseng kajeno lena, Comrade Gwede Montage, o na ile kerekeng a apere sutu a le motle. Ke batla le ho leboha le meyara wa rona le yena apereng sutu entle le tie. Secretary General le yena o apere tsona tse disutu tsa hae, empa ba senya ka o kenya kepisi. Modulasetulo wa province ya rona yena la mo tseba he o dula apere ka yona tsena ena. Comrades, it's a joy and a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the provincial leadership and the regional leadership for arranging this memorial lecture, but also thank the Secretary General and his office for arranging that the whole NEC should be present tonight. So, comrades, we meet here in the presence of the National Executive Committee, which has been meeting for the past 3 days. Tomorrow, the NEC continues to receive the first foundational course, the foundational course, which is going to be a requirement for all members of the ANC. So we are starting with the National Executive Committee tomorrow, and thereafter it will be spread throughout the country when every member of the African National Congress will be required to go through this course to qualify as a member of the ANC. Comrades, we're here tonight to remember a great leader of our movement. It has been said that the legacy of heroes is the memory of a great name and the inheritance of a great example. We are, gathered as we are here, inheritors of a great example that was set by our leader, Oliver Reginald Tambo. Today marks 107 years since the birth of O.R. Tambo, who was the longest-serving president of the African National Congress. He was a hero whose great name is forever and indelibly inscribed in the hearts and the minds of the people of South Africa and the people of our continent, Africa. He left behind a towering legacy. His life was a fine example of what it means to be a true revolutionary, a principled leader, a bridge builder, and a true servant of the people of South Africa. We remember O.R. Tambo at a time when we have lost a number of stalwarts of our liberation movement. They were part of the illustrious generation that birthed our freedom, and we cannot but be mindful that we are witnesses of the passing of an era of leaders who were prepared to sacrifice their lives, their livelihoods, and the comforts of life for the freedom of our people. When President Nelson Mandela delivered his eulogy at the funeral of O.R. Tambo, he said, "I say that Oliver Tambo has not died because the ideals for which he sacrificed his life can never die." He went on to say that Oliver Tambo has not died because the ideals of freedom, human dignity, and a colorblind respect for every individual cannot perish. I say he has not died because there are many of us who became a part of his soul and therefore willingly entered into a conspiracy with him for the victory of his cause. While the ANC lives, he said, Oliver Tambo cannot die.
All right, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa there. We keep a close eye on this memorial lecture, the O.R. Tambo Memorial Lecture. Our producers are keeping a close ear and eye on it. We'll bring you the big takeaways in our later bulletins. But speaking basically on the life and times of O.R. Tambo, Oliver Reginald Tambo, the longest-serving ANC president, born on this day, October 27, 1917. 107 years ago, and the president talking about it coming at a time when the organization has lost so much. The likes of Tito Mboweni, Member Tisim Dratlana, also Pravin Gordhan. So reflections in terms of what that means for the organization, what O.R. Tambo's legacy means for the organization given the current state of play. Stay tuned to SABC News. Will bring you the big takeaways in a short while. All right, let's continue with regards to throwing the spotlight on insurance-related murders in South Africa. A number of guests here today to give you some insights with regards to this. I want to go back to Garth. Garth, just help us understand. One of my questions to SK a little earlier on was the use of technology in trying to help close the gaps. Are you aware of any such within the industry in order to close those gaps?
Yes, definitely, Blaine. And, I think you can see that these cases are a result of deploying exactly that type of technology. Yeah. These cases weren't only discovered by accident. It was hard police work, hard investigations, as well as the insurance industry working together to uncover these murders. We were only formed in the life insurance industry about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. And you can see that the detection rate is increasing dramatically. So definitely they are using technology, if you want to call it AI, let's refer to it as AI, but technology to control and to deter this type of activity.
We killed for insurance money. That's the book title. The author is with us today, Molope Matete. Thank you, sir, for joining us. In terms of the writing of this book, Molope, what did you find? What are some of the trends? What sticks out for you?
Good evening and to the viewers at home. And I'm glad that I can see Garth in the list of guys who are part of this panel. He read my book. I think the first copy that landed in the shelves went to his office to say this is the product, and then let us maybe see how best we can leverage on the inside of the book to actually send out the message or an education to the public. Right. Look, back to your question. The book itself. Firstly, let me maybe take you through why the book. Basically, it was around bringing some sort of an awareness and an education, both to the users of the insurance product, especially within the life space, and then also to the insurance industry. So if you look at the book, the level of balance I achieved there was to say to the users, these are the red flags that you actually need to look out for, to see the risk that actually revolves around you. And to the insurance, the provider, the insurers themselves, it was a question of saying, your controls are not as effective or as tight as they should be. And this, in most cases will offer, the attraction to either your employees within the organization or the users outside of your environment to actually infiltrate your organization. But what was important is I think back to the point that Dr. Noma, if I'm correct, raised to say the issue of pressure, greed is actually very interesting issue that I brought into the book as well, to say, employees, especially from the internal or from within the business itself, within the insurance company itself, will see the opportunity. It starts with the people from inside the organization. They will see the opportunity. Right. They will actually exploit those opportunities, especially if they operate in an environment where controls are not that tight enough, where there's still a lot that has to be tied from the loose ends in terms of bringing effective or proper controls. Even if you have good systems within the organization, but the fact that you still have employees who are tempted and can leverage on any opportunity that they see within the organization. That will always create a fertile ground for, these employees to start, stealing from the organization. But it will start with 1 million and it will go to 10, etc. So, and then, with I'm now talking to the book itself, with the contact with, the syndicate operating outside of the environment, where they will now, identify or use as a runner within the organization. That becomes now, a way that the people or syndicate are operating outside of the organization will start to infiltrate, the organization with the help of a runner who's employed by that particular organization. It's basically some of the issues that the book will touch on to say, look from inside before you start dealing with a person outside of the organization. Very often you will never see a situation where a syndicate will come into the organization without the help of someone key to the processes within the organization.
Dr. Mthethwa, is that your finding as well during your studies in terms of these syndicates infiltrating?
Yes. Look, I think that as Mr. Lope has stated, it is unlikely for a person who is from outside the organization to successfully commit life insurance fraud without the help of someone inside. So yes, the problem with the loopholes is a factor also in terms of these perpetrators committing life insurance fraud.
All right, we need to take a quick break. We're trying to unearth or dig a little deeper in terms of the motivation and how we can close the gaps in terms of people or insurance-related killings in South Africa. Why are people doing it? You would say the reasons are kind of obvious. Money, financial, greed is the other one as well. But we need to know how to close these gaps. More from our guests in the short. Let's take this. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical, insurance-related killings in South Africa. We want your thoughts as well. So, on our regular Word on the Street feature, we took the streets of Cape Town, seeking diverse insights and perspectives on this topic. This is what Cape Townians had to say. Take a look.
I think it just boils down to greed and the love for money. And I think it's just also a moral decay. People are just losing their moral compass more and more.
They should go back to the past that weren't allowed. If you ever kill someone or whatsoever or commit suicide, you don't get paid out. They should go back to that. That's why it's so easy to people kill each other just to get the money.
There should be stricter laws regarding policies. For example, if you want to open a policy for someone, they have to be there with you and also with their ID card so that they know that there is a policy that was taken out on my behalf.
People will take out these policies firstly for greed because they know if I can get this person out the way, then I pay out his akum. Also, people sometimes want to maintain certain lifestyles, and with their own personal income, they can't do that. So that would possibly be another motivation.
Poverty, and also it's greediness. Yeah, people are greedy. They want money.
Yeah, I think it's most of the time driven by greed, and quite a big part of that is all about self, because there's no love for your family. You've lost that connection between your family, your kids. And then I think maybe if you go back to having a good family balance at the beginning of your life, it will give you a much better understanding of love and what you should have for your family.
We appreciate your thoughts on this matter. Sekgobola Thobakgale is a broker principal and key individual. Help us understand, SK, with regards to after somebody dies. What is that process that insurance companies follow in order to verify before they pay out?
So the first thing the insurance company, in terms of their terms and conditions, they will put in the time that you must put in the claim. it's one of the ways which is, helps in those kind of situations, to try and eliminate fraudulent claims. The second thing that they do, they want documents to prove, like, the death certificate, the ID number of that person.
So what is needed? Death certificate?
Death certificate, ID, and all other documents that you would get from a funeral parlor that confirms the death of a person. But I don't think what we're dealing with here is whether the person has died or not.
Right.
But what we're dealing with here, as the theme you could hear in the conversations, is that we're dealing with people that are greedy, that are abusing the system. So therefore, there may be more requirements. Maybe, somebody giving, somebody, if I'm insuring somebody's life, then there's a second person that confirms that insurance of that person's life. So in that case, then I don't take the money and use it for myself, excuse me, but then there's somebody who insures in a way. I don't know whether it's necessary or not. Maybe Garth might be more, much more aligned to be able to tell us whether that can be done or not. But the insurance industry does take the measures, does request the documents that prove that the life is normal, and that is not the issue. It's the greedy that we're dealing with.
Garth, what do you think?
No, 100%, and I agree with SK. I mean, the issue is not around the death, it's around the paperwork now, because it is relatively easy in South Africa, very sadly, tragically, in fact, to get a body. If you want a body, I'll get you a body, young, old, black, white, whatever. The issue that we have is we've got criminal syndicates that are working within the funeral parlors, within the mortuaries, that will sign false documents. We've got doctors that will sign false death certificates. Right. SK is not 100% correct in the fact you don't even need a death sometimes. You can be well and alive and you can claim on your own life. That's also been in the news recently. So we've got very, very clever syndicates that are misusing the product. A very small percentage of the total number of incidences, but very clever individuals.
Right. Let's go to our digital audience. Hands up already. Let's go to Ms. NP Maseko.
Good evening. I think beyond greed, there is a undermining of the law. People do not necessarily respect the law anymore, and that is why people are so brave to break it. And so with police women being arrested, people like Rosemary being arrested, we can leverage on that to reinforce the power of the law in order for people to perhaps be scared to do something so fraudulent, so that so that we can have systems in place that make sure that people do not go back to being criminals, and moving forward with things like having consent, having people verify that, yes, indeed, I do agree to be part of this life insurance. I think we also need to leverage on these gaps that we find, the people that we do find and arrest. We need to make sure that we make examples of those people in order to try and close the gap of people undermining the laws that are in place.
All right, Mr. Makumbi, and then Candace.
Thank you, Blaine, for the opportunity, and viewers at large. When headlines or as these surface, we must pause and ask ourselves a question as to how did we get here? What cultural and economic pressures are pushing people to these extremes and to commit these kind of activities? As I look at these cases, I'm struck by how deeply it reflects the decay of our social fabric. And this is not just about individual greed or moral failures. It also speaks to the broader trend, a world where desperation and fixation on material success lead to justify any action, no matter how dark, how bad it is, we still continue. And I believe that it goes back to that thing, to the say that to what the Bible says, that the love of money is the root of all evil. So this drives that activity to go any extent to kill and to do whatever, and to people that are very that are suffering, hoping for help in some way, but again, this ends in the hands of the wrong people. And another thing that just to add on the ground is that the person who's writing the policy on the ground, right? That's where the screening should start, with the insurance companies. The person who's writing the policy on the ground is pushing a sale, and sometimes they will go to any extent to cut the corners and end up writing these policies. And I think implications on the side of the insurance companies is to actually sort of have a central beneficiary register, wherein they will see that one individual has benefited from more than 5 deaths. How is that possible? You know,
you need to pick up the commonality. Mr. Makumi, you make good points. Thank you very much indeed. Value added, no doubt. Candace, let's hear from you, then Sunshine, then try and squeeze in Musa as well. Candace?
I think one of the main reasons that we are facing is the fact that there is a lot of miseducation when it comes to insurance and claims and etc. So it's very important to bridge that gap and educate these people so that they know what they're getting themselves into. Additionally, the control measures of taking out these insurance plans, it's important that the person who it's taken out on understands what exactly they're getting into and what that entails. Not only should it should not only end at a verification point where their signature is enough, but rather there needs to be a further step to ensure that they actually know what is entailed within that.
Let's hear from Sunshine and then Musa.
Thank you very much. I think one criminological theory that best describes this current phenomenon that we're having in South Africa is the strain theory, where everyone has a capacity of being a law-abiding citizen, but because of external factors that some of the presenters have spoken on, the issue of greediness, issues of financial challenges that people that are faced with, understanding that currently economic living conditions have been bad. Because when you look at the trend, the people that are at the center of this are law-abiding citizens, are expected to be law-abiding citizens, which are the SAPS officials. We should also look at why them specifically. Are they having any working conditions that are propelling them to be participating in this kind of activities? For me, the strain theory fairly describes this particular phenomenon that we're faced with as a country.
Sunshine, thank you. Musa?
Thank you so much. My contribution is whether should we look at this problem of fraud murderers in terms of it being a societal problem or a national problem, because when you look at what is happening, what happened in Gauteng in terms of Rosemary Ngovu, what's happening in Limpopo, and what's also happening in Eastern Cape, should this now become a societal problem or it's now a national problem? And also is there now a thin line between public officials such as your police, who are people who are supposed to uphold the law, but they are now breaking the law.
Yeah. Good point. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time and your valuable insight. We've run out of time, but as I keep on saying, these conversations will continue. No doubt we've understood the process, but more importantly, we understood where the gaps are and what we can close. So thank you very much indeed, SK, for that. Garth as well. A pleasure having you on the program. Dr. Mthethwa, go and have yourself a happy birthday. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Value added, no doubt, and Mulipia as well. Thank you very much indeed. All right. Before we go, here's my take. Once again, the sanctity of life is being called into question. The phrase refers to the idea that human life is sacred and precious. Remove the reverence for life and you have the death of decency, right? As a society, we can't let that happen. You've heard the different stories of insurance-related murders, but there seems to be a nucleus of fact that is familiar: greed. Greed is the bottomless pit which exhausts the person in an endless effort to satisfy the need without ever reaching satisfaction. It's a quote attributed to social psychologist Eric Fromm. The fact that more and more people are getting caught illuminates Fromm's sentiment, right? In this case, there's no good that can come from bad. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, then be sure to watch this episode of Topical on YouTube. Democracy 30 up next with Oliver Dixon. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Have yourself a great evening, my friends. Take care. Bye-bye.